Mason West.
Welcome into this episode of Bare Bones. As always, I am Dr. Mason West. And first of all, cool that there's anybody here right now at 7 a.m. watching this live. I appreciate y'all being here on this Christmas morning. Weird week where obviously normally Bare Bones goes live on Thursday evening in particular. And with the holiday and all that stuff, and I didn't want to interfere with other people's schedules in terms of their podcast. So you know what, we're doing a early morning Christmas Day pod, a little special one here where it won't be super long, honestly. And obviously I'm gonna do this solo. I was not gonna drag Danny with his wife and child into doing this, but I wanted to get you this podcast, some information, especially with the injury report, and then something a little special later on as we talk about the actual match with the 49ers. But thank you everyone that is joining live here. That's pretty cool that you're willing to spend your Christmas morning with me. Let's just get right into it. All right, chart review. Bits and bobbles news from this week. That's some of it good, some of it bad. So first of all, Bears have Pro Bowlers, which is very cool. It's been a little while since there's been consistent, or not even consistent, but multiple, I should say, Pro Bowlers for the Bears. The main three: safety Kevin Byard, guard Joe Thuney, and center Drew Dahlman. Most likely the Bears are eventually going to get some Pro Bowl as alternatives, but it's also pretty stunning to say that cornerback Nahshon Wright wasn't selected. He leads the league in takeaways, and he led cornerbacks in fan votes. So keep in mind, about 1/3, if I recall correctly, of the voting is fans. That means that there were so little few votes from the powers that be, the other 2/3 from, sports writers and all the other people who are involved in this Pro Bowl voting, that dragged him down enough that he did not get a Pro Bowl. Now, Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. We all know that. The players know that. But especially for a guy like Nahshon, where, based on his story, coming, out of JUCO and, going from drafting to practice squads and all those different things. And then, basically being a cast off and brought in here by Dennis Allen, and even more specifically, probably Al Harris, because Al Harris worked with him when he was with the Cowboys. To leading the league in takeaways. And then it's not just, because takeaways are a fickle thing, right? Sometimes the ball just happens to fall in your hands and you put together a fantastic season. I mean, we saw that, look back to the 2018 Bears, insane number of takeaways. And then you go to 2019 and takeaways fell off. Defense wasn't quite as good. But when it comes to what Nahshon's doing, I mean, two that come to mind specifically are the forced fumble against Josh Jacobs, and then the one on Jalen Hurts during the tush push. I mean, he is creating those takeaway opportunities. And then if you want to even go to some of the interceptions he's had, I mean, he is and I've been on record, that I think that he led the league in takeaways, but also led the league in passer rating allowed, or was top of the league in passer rating allowed, and even touchdowns allowed. So there's still some things there to be noted that improvement can occur there. But with his length, with how good he is as a ball on the ball, his physicality and his physical presence also create those turnovers too. So there's some sustainability to that, and the fact that he plays on a team that is currently an 11-win team with very few losses, and the fact that he did make a Pro Bowl is insane. So hopefully he makes it as an alternate. He deserves it, not just for the head nod, but also, this matters. And even small negotiations, right? Because he's going to be due up for a contract. Hey, I was a Pro Bowler, I was an alternate, I was an All Pro, I was, I made this team, that team. All those things matter for him in particular. So I hope he continues to get the flowers he deserves. Just also to note, right, the Bears are playing the 49ers this weekend on Sunday. So just want to highlight the Ravens, Broncos, and 49ers, and Seahawks, for that matter, all tied for the most selections among teams with 6 Pro Bowl selections. So not to get back on that horse, but the fact that, the Bears are an 11-win team, and a team like the Ravens, who may not even make the playoffs at this point, it seems it's, again, popularity contest, name recognition. It's unfortunate. But the other teams, Broncos, 49ers, Seahawks, that makes sense. All deserve it. For the 49ers, offensive tackle Trent Williams was selected to his 12th Pro Bowl, making him the fourth offensive lineman and first offensive tackle since 1970 to reach that number. 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk made his 10th Pro Bowl, the most ever at his position. George Kittle made a Pro Bowl. There are 3 more. I don't need to dive into all that, but that does highlight, whether you want to talk about it from the popularity standpoint or from the production standpoint, the 49ers, even though they have some holes, which we'll talk about, they are still a good team, right? And you can see that considering the fact that the Bears and the 49ers are essentially battling for this 1 seed right now. And this game this Sunday is really going to determine that, or at least be a part of it, because both teams will still need the Seahawks to lose a game. The Seahawks play the Panthers, and then in the final week, they also will have another guy. I can't remember off the top of my head, but so you need a loss there. Over the last 2 seasons, the Bears have earned 5 Special Teams Player of the Week honors, tied with the Broncos for the most in the NFL. So considering, Richard Hightower has been pretty under fire, I would say, with, Cairo missing some kicks, with some of the flubs that have happened on special teams, whether it's a fumble, whether it's poor punt or kick coverage. I mean, the fact that there's still something happening there on that special teams unit. I mean, if you want to go back to last week, there's a less than a 10% chance to recover an onside kick, and the Bears did it in one of the most dire of situations. So there is still something to be said about what Richard Hightower is doing with this unit. Bears kicker Cairo Santos was named NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. He connected on field goals from 46, 51, and 43 yards against some tricky crosswinds and created a tricky bounce on the onside kick that I had just mentioned. It's the 3rd time in his career he's been chosen as Special Teams Player of the Week. So, I mean, again, I'm someone I was on record where I was questioning when Moody got claimed. Are the Bears going to regret that? But, I mean, I don't care who you are. Brandon Aubrey, Jake Moody, whoever you want to put. I don't know how many of those kickers were making those kicks that Cairo did in the Packers game. Long kicks with some crazy wind. I mean, I think it was that first one where when they showed from behind, you could just see the crossbar. It's just waving side to side. It's pretty nuts. So a couple other quotes here, ones I thought that were just interesting or important. Caleb Williams opened up about how long it took him to figure out Ben Johnson. Caleb was, it felt like our relationship was pretty fragile. Geez, it doesn't seem like he likes me. And I think that speaks to a couple things. One, it speaks to Ben Johnson, like who he is and how he operates. He's a football guy where, he wants and expects the best out of you. And, he's not there to be your best friend. But then Caleb goes on to say that, once, they get outside those painted lines that, he's one of the guys. So it's hard to be someone that can turn that light switch on and off where, business and fun, but it seems like Ben Johnson straddling that line. I think it also goes to show what Caleb needed and a little bit into what happened last year. We're not going to dive specifically into the past super hard necessarily at this point, but it was talked about how he wasn't necessarily maybe coached up the way that he should have been, or, he wasn't coached in the right way to connect with him. And that's just how some people work. I mean, I say that all the time to my patients. So one patient will say, "Hey, you seem like you're a lot harder to me than you are the person I saw that just, walked out of here." And I say, well, that's how you need to be coached, you could say, right? Everyone's different. And then usually most of those people are like, yeah, you're right. That's how I am. So it just, and a lot of times, even though those people they're resistant initially, right? They maybe because they haven't been pushed before or haven't been coached or taught or whatever in a certain way. And at the end of the day, what we're seeing, Ben Johnson's getting the most out of Caleb. Caleb is getting the most out of Ben Johnson. I think having to go from Jared Goff, seasoned guy, stays in the pocket, very, on time, all that jazz, to a guy like Caleb who does have these extra abilities, whether it's the pocket mobility, whether it's the scrambling, whether it's a bigger arm. He's got a bigger arm than Jared Goff, let's be real. And Ben on multiple occasions has said that Caleb has gotten him right, that Ben's had the wrong play call, something of that nature, and Caleb has made him right. So I think they've both been good for each other. Another quote, Caleb Williams, on if he takes personal satisfaction being the quarterback that led the Bears to the playoffs. Yes, I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the tallest, fastest, whatever the case may be. I get drafted here. I'm told that I'm not a special player, that I'm not a good fit here, that coach and I won't work, that I can't win here. I know that's going to keep going on, but I do take a little satisfaction being able to help this team, help this organization be a part of it to get to the playoffs. My goal isn't just to get to the playoffs. My goal is to win and win big. I think the biggest thing there is, first of all, there's a lot of people, and you want to get wrapped up too much in social media and, even some of the talking heads on shows and stuff, but who are now like, oh, who said that? Caleb. First of all, everyone knows, there were Bears fans that were pretty anti-Caleb. Whether you want to talk about nail painting, when you want to talk about, finding his mom in the stands, you want to talk about this guy just won't fit here. He's too soft for the hardened of Chicago. And then that went as far as also, other fandoms, media. I mean, people wanted to tear Caleb down as soon as he got here. They were ready to anoint Jayden Daniels, and we're so excited to do so over Caleb when Caleb struggled last year. And even at the beginning of this year when Drake May's continued to put together a fantastic season, MVP candidate kind of a season. I still think it's Matt Stafford, but that, as soon as that happened, ready to anoint a Drake May and say, no, Caleb, you're still not it. So it's ridiculous that there's any pushback on that commentary. But even going further, I know this is just football talk to an extent, but yeah, his goal is not to get to just the playoffs, just to win and win big. So just to know that you have a quarterback that's that hungry, it's nice. It's nice. It's good. It's fuzzy feeling, especially on a day like today. It's Christmas Day. Couple more things here. The Bears signed former Northwestern tight end Thomas Gordon to the practice squad and placed tight end Kadir Ismail on practice squad IR. Not huge news, but just something to note. There's a couple quotes I could have pulled from the 49ers talking about Caleb in particular. Robert Saleh had some commentary. Shanahan had some comments. You can go and find that if you would like to. I didn't pull that for this. The one thing I pulled specifically was from Dennis Allen. In all facets of the 49ers game, they're performing at a high level. And I think that has to be noted. We're going to dive into some of the numbers here in a little bit, but this 49ers team is good. Now they have holes. That defense is not great, if we're being honest. The defensive line in particular, they really don't put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the offense is something else. You don't necessarily have a true wide receiver one like you would traditionally think. When you think about it, Brandon Ayuk got hurt and then just stopped showing up. But when you have a guy like George Kittle, when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, when you have a system like the one that Shanahan runs, you don't even necessarily need it to a top tier guy, wide receiver one, because the system and some of those other pieces are so good. So overall, this is a good team, and their special teams too. That game against the Colts, that's about special teams really helped set the tone early in that game for them, and made it hard for the Colts to try to cling on in that game last week. So 49ers, fantastic team. All right, next, we're going to have our training room roundup. Talk a little bit about some of these injuries, both on the Bears and the 49ers side. So the first one, just to highlight, we're going to get right into, there's a couple illnesses here. So you got Devin Duvernay, DeMarco Jackson, and Nick McCloud all out with an illness. There's been stuff going around, whether you want to talk about football-wise or just in the world. It was Thanksgiving. I got sick around 5 p.m. I was fine for the most of the part of the day, and then all of a sudden got smacked in the face. And that thing lasted. I had to call out Monday out of work, and I still felt a little sick on Tuesday. So, almost a full week for me. Obviously, these guys, they're around and have access to a lot of things that will really help speed up this process. And at the end of the day, too, you just got to gut it out. So we'll see what happens when the injury report comes out, right, the next couple of days. But I think all those guys will, for the most part, be fine. One or so might still be having something lingering, but I don't expect them to miss. DJ Edwards did not participate with a glute. So my guess is, without knowing specifically, there's probably something going on compensatorily, because he was out for such a long time with that hamstring. The big question will be today, right? Can he at least be a limited participant for the Thursday, Fridays reports? I don't exactly have the exact schedule for them. I don't know if they have off today with the holiday or not, but your hope for the glute, you're hoping it's just more of like a soreness and like, hey, we're just gonna like take this chill going into an important game versus it being something big. But keep an eye on that. Rome Odunze, DNP. he's not going to play in the regular season again. I would be blown away if he does. I mean, in all reality, and this is not trying to have hindsight be 2020. I did say this before. When if it's a true stress fracture, I mean that's a multi-week issue. It's a bone fracture. You need at least 6 weeks of rest till take stress off of that part. He should not have tried going, especially in the weather and all that jazz that was going on a couple weeks ago. So now there's a setback, all right, and now it's got to slow play it. So don't expect Rome back until the playoffs. If the Bears could get a bye week, that would be lovely. Joe Thuney, DNP, rest, who cares? That's just Joe Thuney doing Joe Thuney things. On some good news. So the Bears opened the practice window for Luke Newman, seeing if he can come back from that foot injury. A lot of limiteds. I don't really expect any of these to heavily matter. So the biggest one probably that would be the question mark would be Luther Burden, but being a limited participant with that ankle is a good sign. I would expect him to play. Kevin Byard did tweak his ankle at the end of that Packers game. Would expect him to play. Same thing. I mean, Drew Dahlman, Travis Homer, and even Deshaun Wright with a hamstring. I expect all of those individuals to play. The Bears have been slow playing a lot of these injuries in terms of practice reps for pretty much this whole year. CJ Gardner-Johnson, he had a bit of a scary knee injury. There was a chance there was something bigger, funkier going on there, but being limited is a pretty good sign for him that he'd be available into this 49ers game, which is very important because, again, we talked about this. While there may not be too many stars at the wide receiver position, it's still a well put together team where you need all hands on deck. All right, that's all of the Bears ones. Pull up the 49ers ones. Normally the 49ers, the Bears have their opponents on here, and they don't. So give me a moment. Boom, boom. Going to pull up the 49ers report. There we go. Awesome. The reason is because they don't have one. Makes no sense. All right. So instead, we're not going over the specific injury report since the 49ers refused to put one up, apparently, because why would they? We're just going to talk about some of the ones that we know. All right, so the biggest one is George Kittle. George, and to my chagrin, is someone that had him in a fantasy matchup. Here we go. We got something here. In a fantasy matchup, and I would have won if George didn't get hurt, but I digress. It's reported as it's an ankle. Honestly, I thought for a second the way he pulled up, it might have been Achilles or a calf strain, but reported as a mid to low ankle sprain. So this doesn't make sense. And I say that because when you hear mid to low ankle sprain, it makes it almost sound like, oh, it's somewhere between it. But when you think about the anatomy, I'm just going to talk about this as generally as possible without having a foot in front of me. I'm not going to throw my foot on the screen, a low ankle sprain is going to be usually the outer part of that ankle. So your anterior talofibular ligament rolling. It's the classic, you're playing basketball, you land on someone's foot and your foot goes in, your ankle goes out kind of thing. So that's when you'd have like a lateral ankle sprain or your traditional low ankle sprain. You could have also a medial low ankle sprain. That's less common just because the inner part of that foot, you have this massive deltoid ligament. It's pretty hard to sprain that one or if you want to go further to tear it. I mean, you need some pretty good force. So normally it's a body landing on your ankle or something. George was just running across the play on a route. So I don't think it'd be a low one. And then in terms of what was happening at the high ankle sprain is normally this ligament that's between the lower leg bones. So your tibia and your fibia, that one. So what happens is if that talus, the lower part of that ankle gets shoved upwards between those bones and those bones push outwards, the ligament between those bones can get sprained or torn or however you want to put it. So when you talk about a mid to low, it's not like they're connected in some way that you would think like, oh, it's just something in between. Either you have a mid, you have a low, or you have a combination, right? That's really the more appropriate way to put it. So I think for George, they're making this nebulous thing because if you said it was a high ankle sprain, for sure he's not playing, like for sure. Like that's, and here's the thing: if there's one player in the NFL that could play through a high ankle sprain 1 week later, it would be George Kittle. That dude is insane. He is a tough MFer, and honestly, he's my favorite non-Chicago Bear football player. But if you just said it was a mid ankle sprain, like now all of a sudden, like I'm like, okay, you are out. If it was truly a low ankle sprain, I think you're saying more confidently you're playing. Long story short, so he doesn't have a high for sure. That's out. He might have a mid. He might have a low. It's something weird in between. I put it as a 25% chance that he plays right now. He didn't participate earlier in the week. Honestly, we probably won't see him practice all week, and I don't think he'll play. That's a huge hit to the 49ers. Before he was leading the 49ers in targets and receptions in that game against the Colts before he went out, and that was going into the third quarter there. A couple other players here. So Ricky Pearsall did not practice last week, or did not play, last week for the 49ers. He's got a knee ankle. He's going to be limited, so he has a chance. So maybe that wide receiver core, if Kill can't go, getting Pearsall back would be helpful. On the defensive side, Renardo Green, cornerback, was a limited participant with a neck. And then Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, knee, did not practice on Wednesday. So just they're actually relatively healthy overall, and also for some reason, again, no injury report. So you're annoying. So again, just go back to George Kittle real quick, just to make sure I highlight this. It's not a for sure. It's not a high. That's what some people are wondering. It's not a high ankle sprain, mid to low ankle sprain, much more doable to come back if possible. But it's again 25% chance. All right, that's it for the training camp roundup. Let's take a quick break here. Kombucha is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends the traditional benefits of kombucha with nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. Made from organic teas and infused with natural electrolytes, Kombucha offers a delicious and effective solution to maintain peak performance. Better athletic performance, increased nutrient absorption, improved wellness, and improved cognitive stamina. Use code BEARGUTCHECK for 15% off your order. All right. Real quickly, before we get to the next segment, something I have to ask of you, all the people listening live, people listening in the future, whether it's via YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, if you could give this a like, if you could share this with a Bears fan in your life, that would be a fantastic Christmas gift to us. Also, if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel in particular, we use this to get more sponsors and to try to grow the podcast. So if you could throw, like I said, a subscription, which doesn't cost anything, it's just a nice little gift to us, a like, share this with people that you think would really enjoy the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. All right, my camera went out, so I'm going to try to get it back in a second here. All right, but in the meantime, we'll just keep talking because you don't need to see my face. It's kind of unnecessary, for being honest. All right, next section, we have our 12 days of Christmas, or 12 days of Bearsmas, however you want to look at it. So for all these, for the most part, I think I did a pretty good job of coming up with like actual good stats and numbers that connect to each of the numbers. One of them is stretched, so bear with me, but no pun intended. So we're going to go from the top. 12th day of Bearsmas. The Bears gave to me a 12th overall ranking in rushing efficiency for Kyle Monangai per Next Gen Stats with 3.49. So this is the total distance a player traveled on rushing plays as a ball carrier, according to Next Gen Stats, measured in yards, per rushing yards gained. The lower the number, the more of a north-south runner. So basically, one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this is, one, it matched with the number 12, but two, that was something that the Bears sorely lacked and missed in previous years, was a runner who was willing to just go north and south, right? Get me those on his 1 yard. If 1 yard is blocked, can you get me 1 yard? Can you get me 2 yards? Can you get me 3 yards? It's 4th and 1. Can you just get me that 1 yard? DeAndre Swift has been better overall in getting a little bit more north and south, but I mean, he wants to cut it. He wants to go outside. Kyle Monangai does a fantastic job of just running straight up the gut. On the 11th days of Bears missed, the Bears gave to me 111 rushing yards over expected for DeAndre Swift, and a first overall ranking in terms of rushing percent over expected at 48.5%. Now, I've been on record last year. I mean, DeAndre Swift was bottom of the league in rushing yards over expected. So essentially, he was getting less yards than what was being blocked for him. So for the fact that he was able to turn that around and now have 111 rushing yards over expected, but also have a first overall ranking in terms of his rushing percent over expected, huge shift. And I think that lends to what Ben Johnson's doing, and that also talks to what Eric Bieniemy is doing in that running backs room. On the 10th day of Bears miss, the Bears gave to me 10 fumble recoveries for the Bears defense, along with 21 interceptions, resulting in a league-leading 31 takeaways. So we talked about Nahshon Wright earlier. He has 8 total takeaways, leads the league with 5 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries. Third is Kevin Byard with 6 total takeaways, 6 interceptions, and Tremaine Edmunds is 5th in the league, 5 total takeaways, 4 interceptions, and 1 fumble recovery. Pretty outstanding to see, though, this entire Bears defense really striving to get these takeaways. Having 3 people in the top 10, in the top 5 is insane. On the 9th day of Bears miss, the Bears gave to me, Bears having a 9-spot jump from 25th worst total DVA at negative 12.7% to 16th at 2.7%. This is pretty impressive to have a 9-point jump. And I think if you actually shifted this or looked at how much is from defense, how much is from offense in terms of DVOA, I mean, you would definitely see a much bigger jump in offense. I just pulled a total DVOA for this one in particular. But just pretty fantastic to see that big of a jump in such a short period of time. On the 8th day of Bears miss, the Bears gave to me 8 to 7 explosive, I wrote this wrong. 8 E7 explosive pass plays and 63 explosive run plays this season. You got to give me a little bit of credit here. Finding a specific number that matched for every single day of Bears miss was a little tough. So 8 T7 explosive pass plays and 63 explosive run plays. This has been something that's going on all year. Ben Johnson has this team searching for explosives, and that's what you have to do to win in today's NFL, especially if sometimes the consistency stuff can be harder. So if you shoot yourself in the foot and get behind the chains because of, a fumble here and there or penalties or anything of that nature. So the consistency is still needed for this team. I mean, we saw that last week against the Packers, that they were marching down the field in little chunks and settled for a couple field goals. And for a while there, it was touch and go. They were able to find those explosives later in the fourth quarter and in overtime. So, you have to have the consistency and or the explosives, but you can't lack both. On the 7th day of Bears miss, the Bears gave to me a 7th overall ranking in usage of 12 personnel at 31.21% and 7th ranking in 13 personnel at 7.70%. So I wanted to highlight this just because that usage of 12 and 13 personnel, while receivers may not love it because of, you want to be on the field and you want to make plays as a receiver. This is important for the Bears for a couple of reasons. One, it lends to some of your condensed formations, which has been helping them in the run game, right? And it's been helping them make everything look the same. Another good example of that, if you want to go back to that Packers game, the touchdown to DJ Moore, they came out in, with 13 personnel. You had Smythe in the backfield as a fullback, and pretty much every single time they lined up in that manner, it was a run play. So Packers thought it was a run, and the fact that they thought that, the Bears were able to get just enough space. DJ Moore, he didn't do anything fancy. He just ran by the defender, was able to create enough space, and Caleb was able to put a perfect ball to get that touchdown in overtime. So that's the chestnut checkers thought process coming from Ben Johnson in terms of some of that personnel. And also, when you talk about the injuries, right? The fact you've been without Rome for a while, the fact that Burden was out, when you don't have necessarily the receivers that you thought you'd have all year due to these various injuries, being able to use that much 12 and 13 personnel is helpful. On the 6th day of Bears miss, the Bears gave to me 6 touchdowns combined between Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland, with 4 for Loveland and 2 for Kmet. Now, neither of these numbers are, in the top 4, 5, top 10 of tight end touchdowns, but especially considering how they brought Loveland along more slowly. He was, he had that shoulder surgery so he wasn't fully engrossed in the offseason program. The fact that Cole Kmet, look at last year, was definitely a bit of a funky year for him. Yeah, they both have a role on this team. Cole's more as a blocker, Colson a little bit more, as he's gotten his role has expanded more and more as a pass catcher. He's been a safety valve for Caleb on some very important third and fourth downs. And then, of course, the touchdowns come with that too. On the fifth day of Bearsmas, the Bears gave to me 10 total takeaways, 4 lost fumbles, and 6 interceptions. So this is probably the one I smudged the most. Half of 10 is 5. The number between 4 and 6 is 5. I don't know. Give me a break. Like, this is the giveaway section, so this is my gimme. The fact that the Bears only have 10 total giveaways on the year and lead the league in that is huge. And that speaks to Caleb and him taking care of the ball. That speaks to what Caleb and Drew Dahlman in terms of center exchange. There's been a couple problems here and there. We saw last week against the Packers, Drew Dahlman, that snap way too high over Monangai's head. That speaks to the running backs and keeping that ball safe. And then also speaks to the rest of the team that if the ball is on the ground, that's still the Bears' ball. They're not letting the other team get it. So that differential is huge. The fact that you're only, again, 10 total for the entire year so far. On the fourth day of Bearsmas, the Bears gave to me only 4 games lost, despite having 299 games missed, leading the league, and 107 points missed, good for 16th in the league in terms of due to injury. And that's according to SIS, or Sports Info Solutions. So the way they look at that, they look at total games missed, but then they also look at each individual player and how many points, right, they might give or take away to your team. So like I highlighted there, the Bears lead the league in total games missed. They're about 16th in the league in terms of points missed. So still relevant, still important. A lot of times the healthiest teams are the teams that, especially now late in the season, are going to be the ones that can make a run. But still, being at 16, you're still in the top half of the league, or in terms of teams, or really right at the middle point. You could be worse off. And the fact that the Bears have been able to stem the tide with Jalen Johnson being hurt, Kyler Gordon being hurt, Tarek Stevenson's missed games. Obviously, we talked about Rome, we talked about the Burden. I mean, the list goes on and on of important players that have been healthy or have been injured, and then the Bears have been able to wade the storm. On the third day of Bears, the Bears gave to me 3 Pro Bowlers. Right? Pretty cool. Not much to add there. It's been a little bit since the Bears have had 3 straight up Pro Bowlers. On the second day of Bearsmas, the Bears gave to me 2 top 20 improbable completions in the 2025 season so far. So in week 14, Caleb Williams was able to hit Olamide Zaccheaus for a completion with a 16.9% chance for a touchdown against the Packers. And then in week 15 against the Browns, everyone knows this play, Caleb hit DJ Moore for a touchdown that had a 16.1% chance. And those are the kinds of plays that every once in a while you have to sprinkle in there, especially as for Caleb as the quarterback. We just talked about not having giveaways, but every once in a while you got to trust your receiver, trust your arm talent, trust that, even if your receiver doesn't get it, nobody's going to get it. The DJ Moore throw is a good example of that, because those are the kinds of plays that could be the difference between a win and a loss, especially if the playoffs are coming closer. All right, and on the first day of Bearsmas, the Bears gave to me Caleb Williams with a 1.19% quarterback turnover rate, which leads the league. Connects to the previous one. Caleb is taking care of the ball. I'm also going to just even extrapolate this to the sacks and how few sacks he's really taking this year compared to last year. He's being very mindful of that. He's able to escape the pocket. There's a couple lucky ones. I mean, to look at that Packers game, there's the face mask that really saved, not just, prevented a sack from happening, but also saved the drive and really saved the game. So there is some luck involved here and there, but, at the end of the day, you also make your own luck. I really believe that. All right. That was your 12 days of Bearsmas. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. I was impressed that I was able to find as many numbers that correlated. So pat on the back to myself. Quick break here, and then we'll get to some stats to really talk about this 49ers Bears matchup. As someone who works with athletes every day, I can tell you this. You train your body with intention, your mind deserves the same level of care. I've personally used therapy in the past, and it helped me handle stress, stay focused, and show up better for the people who rely on me. And that's why I'm a fan of Rula. It takes all the friction out of getting started. No long wait lists, no guessing who's actually a good fit. You answer a few questions, and Rula connects you with a licensed therapist who matches your needs. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is just $15. Look, a lot of guys wait until things hit a breaking point, but therapy isn't weakness, it's a tool. The same way you'd work with a physical therapist to fix your squat pattern, knee pain, back pain, any of that. A therapist helps you tighten up the mental side so you can keep performing at your best. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're carrying more weight than you've let on, Rula makes it simple to take the first step. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to finally get the care they needed. Don't keep putting it off. Go to rula.com/gridiron and get started today. That's RULA.com/gridiron. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. All right. What you need to know. New England Bears fan throws up your bare bones greater than Christmas. Appreciate that, New England Bears fan. Glad that we could be here and share in this joyous Christmas day together here. Really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate all of you being here. Again, I am really blown away and touched by how many of y'all want to waste your Christmas morning listening to me talk about Bears at 49ers. Let's get into that. So just some stats I'm going to throw at you. So each of these I think is important in its own way. Bears allow 6th most rushing yards per game currently in the league with 131.0 per game. The 49ers rushing attack has been not great this year. It's actually a little surprising that they ran the ball as well as they did against the Colts. The Colts actually have a decent, pretty good run defense. So I'm concerned about Christian McCaffrey and also Brian Robinson for that matter, who still is a pretty solid change of pace back where they really don't lose much, right? I mean, he's a guy that could start at other places. I know a lot of Bears fans, when Brian Robinson was available, were asking, hey, can we get him as our main, first, second down kind of a back? And this is something to just keep an eye on in this matchup, how the Bears attack the 49ers rushing offense. The Bears also allow 6th most rushing yards on the road with 135.4 per game. Another thing to highlight, the Bears allow 10th most passing yards on the road at 235.4. This really is a bummer that you're playing at San Francisco. Well, not technically for San Francisco. They play outside San Francisco. But they're a much better defense at home. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. The Bears allow the 7th most receptions to tight ends at 5.93 per game. I've already put my thoughts out there on George Kittle and whether or not he's going to play. Their backup is actually a pretty solid one. I know for me personally, he is. I remember picking him up just because I was like, well, if I can't have Kittle, I mean, they still are going to use the tight end a lot, and so that's why I am still concerned that even if Kittle doesn't play, they can still get production at tight ends. I'm not saying he's going to kill it or anything, but still get production. All right. The Bears have allowed the 5th most receiving touchdowns at 28. Now that's just overall defense, right? We know that the Bears defense, it's very much a turnover dependent defense. First and second down, they're pretty rough. Third down, they're better. This is a game that could become a shootout. And I'll get to why in a second here when we look at the 49ers numbers. But this really could be a who scores last kind of game. 49ers allow the 4th most pass completion percentage at 68.4%. 49ers allow the 10th most passing yards at 229.3 per game. The 49ers allow the 6th most receptions at 12.3 per game to wide receivers. And 49ers allow the 6th most receiving touchdowns at 27. So only one less than the Bears. So that is also why I'm talking about this could be a shootout. This 49ers defense doesn't get pressure. The guys up front, there's a lot of injuries there. Fred Warner is hurt and out for the year. So your second level defenders and your linebackers aren't very good. All of that matters. All of that is relevant for this. So look for a high scoring game. Brock Purdy threw a career high 5 touchdown passes last week against the Colts. So it's safe to say he's back after his injuries hampered him early this year. The 49ers, who are sitting at 11-4, who had already clinched their playoff berth, won their 5th consecutive game and moved into the 5th spot in the NFC via a division record tiebreaker over the Rams, taking another step towards claiming the conference's top seed. Purdy and the 49ers offense could not be stopped, notching touchdowns on their first 3 possessions, one set up by a Colts fumbled kick return, and scoring on 7 of their first 8 possessions. Purdy's 5 touchdown passes, which no 49ers quarterback had accomplished in a game since Joe Montana in 1990, went to 4 receivers as he spread the ball around. If the Niners beat the Bears and Seahawks both at home over the final 2 weeks, they would get the NFC's first round bye and home field advantage for the playoffs. But like I mentioned, the 49ers defense is still struggling. The 49ers sacked 44-year-old Philip Rivers only twice and bothered him a few times as the Colts drove down the field on their first 2 possessions and only trailed by 7 points in the fourth quarter. This is not a Colts team that should have happened with. I mean, they should have been able to. I know that Philip gets the ball out pretty quickly, but they should have gotten to him more than twice. So Caleb really should have a good amount of time, and with his escapability, this pass rush should not be a bother for him. Some stats to know. Last bit of stats here. The 49ers have put roughly the same amount of points on the board per game as the Bears. So the 49ers at 26.1 per game. The Bears are at 23.6. The total number of yards San Francisco's offense put up and Chicago's defense has given up per game this season is within 5.6 yards. So 353.7 compared to 348.1. San Francisco averages 5.6 yards per play, while Chicago gives up 6.1. The Bears, on average, are scoring 4.5 more points per game this year than the 49ers are allowing, 25.8 compared to 21.3. And Chicago has a 39.3 yard advantage in total yards per game versus total yards allowed compared to San Francisco, 371.5 to 332.2. Chicago is averaging 5.8 yards per play, while San Francisco is giving up 5.7 yards per play. Last couple categories here. X factor for the 49ers. I mean, it's got to be to lean on Christian McCaffrey, especially if George Kittle can't go. I mean, even with George, CMC is the engine of that team. He had 117 yards rushing and 6 receptions for 29 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Colts. He tied for targets in the past game and had only 1 less reception than Kittle had, who had led their team. And when you also look at the Bears side of it, the Bears ranked 27th out of 32 NFL teams in rushing defense. They're 27th in the NFL in total rushing yards allowed. They're 27th in rushing yards per rush allowed. And they rank 26 out of 32 NFL teams in defensive success rate. So at 55.3%, they're barely stopping rushes half the time. So if you're the 49ers, I'm basically running the ball and just alternating between CMC and Brian Robinson with a heavier CMC dose, obviously, until the Bears stop me. If I'm the Bears, you're almost selling out to stop the run, if we're being honest. X factor for the Bears is to stay disciplined. Referee Alex Moore and his crew will work the Bears 49ers game at Levi Stadium on Sunday night. The crew has called the most penalties of any in the NFL. The Bears had 10 penalties for 105 yards against the Packers. That's unacceptable. The Bears ranked 7th in terms of the most penalties on the year. And the thing that's really frustrating is a lot of these penalties are the shooting yourself in the foot ones, right? It's the false starts. It's illegal formation. It's the ones that you can control. And so the Bears have to, because that might be the difference in this game. If it is a game where it's a bit of a shootout, and now all of a sudden you get a 10-yard or 15-yard penalty that makes it so that you have to punt, that could be what loses you the game. Because now all of a sudden the 49ers go down and they score. And now, instead of it being a tied, if you had gone and scored, now it's a 14-point lead for the 49ers. So you have to stay disciplined. The Bears came out a little hot and bothered against the Packers. We saw that literally on the opening kickoff where you had a personal foul, right? As your linebacker dove on top of the pile. You can't do that. I don't think things like that necessarily happen in this game, but it's more of the cadence specific false starts. It's the illegal formation or illegal shifts. Those are the ones that I'm keeping an eye on. Last category before we get out of here for the holiday, Bear gut check. I use my gut feelings, revitalized by Gabucci, of course, to give game predictions against the line. So we're going to go right into Bears 49ers. 49ers are favored by 3, at least when I looked at these last night. So basically home field 3-point there. So it's more of a push. Oh man. Both teams are coming off of important wins. Both teams need this win when I'm not sure what to pick, I always go to two things. First, I go to injury, health, and then I go to the quarterback. I think George Kittle is more, if he can't go, is more important to this team than, for example, like Rome Odunze is to the Bears. So and then, Fred Warner being out for the year, like him being out for the 49ers, I think is more important than Kyler Gordon now being on IR for the second stint. So I'm going to give advantage Bears there. I know Brock Purdy just threw 5 touchdowns and set records and all that. I just went through all the stats. I just think that I think that Caleb is ultimately still the better quarterback. I mean, to take the completion percentage and put that to the side for a second, I mean, we can have a whole conversation, especially, use the Packers game in terms of throwaways and drop passes and all that, whereas, completion percentage would have been. But I just think the extra dynamic that Caleb gives you in terms of his escapability and his running gives me that Caleb is the better quarterback in this matchup. I'm trying not to sound like a homer. I know how that could come off. If you're a neutral, I'll pick a Cowboys fan listening to this, you may differ, but I'm gonna say Bears win. I think it's gonna be close. Like I said, it might be about who literally has the ball last. But if we're gonna talk about that, then we know, right? The comeback kids, cardiac Caleb, however you want to put it, king of the fourth. I'll give it to Bears and Caleb in a close one in a shootout. I mean, give Caleb 40 seconds, and that's too much time. A couple games to go over. We got 3 Christmas Day games. Cowboys at Commanders. I'm going to do these quick. Cowboys favored by 8.5. Commanders. Cowboys win this. I know both teams are out. The Cowboys don't really have anything specific to play for, but it's a division game. The Commanders are starting their 3rd quarterback in Josh Johnson, I believe, because Mariota's out. And guys like George Pickens is still playing for a contract. He still has to prove. He did well last week, but he needs to continue to prove that, hey, Cowboys, you should pay me. And I think there's a pride aspect when you talk about division game, and also just I think Dak's one of those guys where it's like, how dare you not have me as a MVP candidate? I mean, because he's playing great. So I'll take Cowboys there. Next game, Lions at Vikings. Lions favored by 7.5. Again, we have another backup for the Vikings and Brosmer because JJ's out with a hand injury. Lions need to win this. They have to win this. The Vikings are also without Jordan Mason. Give me the Lions and the Lions to cover that. I don't know that Brosmer is going to give you much of anything. Broncos at Chiefs. I don't think, it's been a while since I've seen a Chiefs line like this, but obviously it makes sense. Mahomes is out for the year. Broncos by 15.5. That is a lot of points. I would just stay away from this. I don't like lines that big. That's hard to do. I wouldn't touch it. I think the Broncos win. I don't know that they win by 15.5. I wouldn't touch it. And we're not keeping record of these, so I don't need to pick this game. I'm just going to tell you the Broncos are going to win. Ravens at Packers. So this is just an important game in that, the Packers need this. They're favored by 3 right now at home. The Ravens, I don't know what the heck happened. I watched that whole Ravens game, and frustratingly, they just stopped running the ball with Derrick Henry. Every time he scored the ball and didn't touch it again, basically almost the rest of the game. Just Harbaugh shooting himself in the foot. I know he's not calling the plays, obviously, over there, but when you come out and your 3rd string running back is starting that series when you're up by a score and you need to put the other team away with Drake May, who was playing very well and was like on fire, it made no sense. That Ravens team's falling apart. We don't know what's going to go on with the Packers. Jordan Love may not play with that concussion. He's been limited in some capacity, so at least he has a chance, but I don't know that he plays, but Malik Willis has been good. He has a shoulder too. Lamar's got the back. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going with this. I'm going to say the Packers end up winning this. I just think that Ravens team is a little funky. I hope the Ravens win, but I think I think even with Malik Willis is playing, we've seen he plays well enough, and Jordan Love said even as a full starter, and LaFleur is creative enough. Now, the only thing with that is Josh Jacobs in the knee is not where you'd like it to be, but I just think that the Ravens are on the precipice of falling apart here. And then probably the most important game for the Bears, other than the Bears game itself, is Seahawks at Panthers. Seahawks favored by 7. Like I said earlier in the show, the Bears need the Seahawks to lose at least one game here in the next 2 to get that 1 seed. The Panthers have been scrappy. Home field. I mean, again, this isn't be a game I would want to bet on, just because I would not be surprised if the Panthers win this. But I would take the Seahawks if gun to my head. They're a very good team. They have crazy awesome games like they did against the Rams, and then they have a couple stinkers that they float out there too. They're hard. Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold at times. Don't get me wrong. He's playing really well, and I love his story, and I'm happy. And there are a lot worse quarterbacks in the league, but every once in a while he gets Sam Darnoldy, and he just will hand you some balls. I mean, the Rams should not have lost that game. They didn't turn the ball over, and they turned Sam Darnold over. Was it 2-3 times? That was crazy. But anyway, so yeah, I will take the Seahawks, but do not be surprised if the Panthers win this game. All right, last comments I'm going to throw out here from Daniel, Bears Sports Highlights. Merry Christmas. Hello, guys. Hello, Daniel. Merry Christmas, y'all. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Sorry the camera cut out. If I wanted to bring it back, I would have had to close the stream and it would have been a whole thing. So you just got to look at a black screen there for a little bit. But, happy holidays. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. If you celebrate Ramadan, Happy Ramadan. Enjoy the time with families. If you don't have families or friends in the area, please, throw yourself into something positive, whether it's giving back, whether it's just something to make you happy. Today, before we head out to go to my mom's for some holiday stuff, I'm probably going to replay God of War, because I really enjoyed playing that game and it was fun and I want to play it again. So that's just my little bit of happiness I'm going to do this morning. But yeah, so I expect it'll be a really good game this Sunday, but I expect there to be a victory Monday. Bears win. And if that's the case, we have the 1 seed in our sights. And locking up the NFC North is also just one step closer there. Bear down, everybody.